All right. So this is in lockdown with Eleni. I nearly said Stace, Dr. Eleni now Nunn. She is a medical doctor. I'm going to share a screen real quick since people like not believing me when I say these things. Eleni and I did an internship together at Kalafong. This is our team. She's in the middle there. I'm on the side. I looked a lot neater back then. I don't know what happened to me now. I blame lockdown for my hair situation. But Lenny, how are you? How are you doing?
I'm good, thanks. Really, really good.
Are you all right?
Yeah, been quite happy during the lockdown, being close to family. So actually, I've really been really blessed during this time. Not too
Okay.
bad at all.
Yeah. You were sharing with me offline that you are expecting a little one. You are 18 weeks pregnant now.
Yeah,
How's that? How's
soon
that
to
been?
start.
You look like you're glowing. That's that's amazing. How's it been? I mean, being pregnant during lockdown, it's not normal. How have you found it?
It was actually really okay. We found out we were expecting about 2 days before lockdown really kicked in.
Wow, okay.
Yeah, so it was all like a bit, everything that happened with lockdown, and during that week it was a bit stressful. But I wasn't doing much work at the time, which was quite nice. A little bit of emergency unit shifts in private and a little bit of GP work here and there. This was kind of my gap year post-comserve. But I meant to have a bit of traveling, which obviously isn't happening either. But it was actually really nice. With the first trimester, a bit of nausea and tiredness. If I wanted to sleep, I could sleep.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I could, just do what I wanted. I was lucky I didn't have to get up at 6 and drive an hour to work like last year and work a full day. And I think if I wasn't feeling great then it wouldn't have been much fun.
Yeah.
It was nice to have hubby at home. He's been working from home the whole time. So yeah, overall, I don't think I could have asked for a better first trimester at home, which is pretty cool.
Sure. So you mentioned that you're taking, you call it a gap year post-comserve. So for those watching, if you're a doctor in South Africa, you do med school internship, community service, and then you're free to do whatever you want. So that's the year that you are in. You mentioned you do GP work and emergency work. Tell us a bit about that. What does it involve? And particularly now during lockdown, or let's say level 5 and level 4, because there was a acute shift with alcohol being unbanned. But how was being in lockdown with a new pandemic that no one knew anything about, and navigating those spaces as a doctor?
It was pretty scary, I won't lie. As I said, there weren't many shifts going out because the units were so quiet, so they were mainly relying on their permanent staff and not so much the local staff. But I did put in a few shifts here and there, and it was a weird space because you're in emergency units that are used to being really full. They're now quiet. Patients are coming in with masks from the get-go, and we don't always wear masks unless we're worried. But now we were wearing masks the whole time, also wearing visors, which, especially if you're seeing kiddies in the emergency unit, which is what we were still seeing quite a bit of, because, if you're a parent and you're worried, kid must come in. And you look terrifying.
You're like a robot.
Visor and gown, and like these poor kids, I felt so bad for them. But yeah, it was scary. And then you get patients that came in that were symptomatic or had fevers, and then it's a whole new room and you're completely gowned up and boots and hats. And yeah, it was scary. But at the beginning, I think we all underestimated it a little bit. I think we all kind of started off saying, it's the flu. You'll be fine. Flu, fever, bit of a cough, you'll be okay unless you're old and really ill.
Yeah.
We've learned now it's not the case, and it's spreading like wildfire. So it's definitely changed, and we're seeing them now in the GP practice as well. So we've got to be so careful now with screening and where we're seeing patients and how we're seeing them. So it's been a very weird space, and also dealing with it as newly pregnant. There's also not literature on what to expect and how things go, and so it's been scary. But at the end of the day, you've also just got to get on and do what you got to do.
Yeah,
that's what I signed up for, I guess.
Yeah.
So you got to go and help the people that you can help.
Yeah. Looking at our country, and our sort of public health issues that existed pre-COVID, um, on one hand, and then also looking at the global response. So the response from the East in China, the Western world, Europe as a separate entity, the States, and all the mistakes they've made. Do you think? Do you think we've under in terms of engagement of the issue? Do you think we've like undercut it, or do you think we've overdone things, or you think it's kind of been just right given the state that we're in, and also our country, and the very we've got a difficult state of affairs this side. I mean, you'd know as a doctor our particular burden of disease. How do you think our response has been? And if you were to grade it on whatever system, how well do you think we've responded?
It's your difficult question. I think a very in-depth question and a very contentious issue at this stage. Because our country is so overpopulated in areas that we need to slow the spread of disease. I think it kind of started off being a more suburban problem, and those that come back from traveling, and yay for you, but now you're a bit sick. If you can isolate on your plot, like cool. But once it gets into the townships and into the areas that don't have adequate funding and hospital resources, we're in big trouble. So I think the idea was good. I think we definitely needed to lock down. And I don't really know how they could have balanced the economical issue that's gone with it. It's a big thing. I've been thinking it a lot, but like if I was Cyril, to be honest, I don't know what I would have done differently. He's dealing with something that he's never had to deal with in his lifespan. We're dealing with something we've never had to deal with in our lifespans and might not again. And because it rushed in so quickly throughout the world, there's no set book to learn from. We've got to kind of learn and test as we go. I think it's been really, really difficult for some people, and I'm so glad to see that the restaurants will go back, and the hairdressers and the beauty salons, and those are a lot of female-run businesses that have been sitting without any incomes. But also, how do you go to a restaurant? Do you sit with your mask on, and then do you take your mask off and put it on a dirty table, and put your dirty mask on a table while you eat and put it? What do you do? So there's no formula for it at the moment, and it makes it difficult. But I think we've been doing okay. I think the Eastern Cape's always going to be in trouble because it's just such a badly run health department. Unfortunately, I haven't worked in the state system this year, so I can't really say how they're coping, but I have heard problems from friends in terms of not having PPEs, and when they complain about seeing flu-like patients without PPE, they're getting written warnings. And so it's a problem. I'm definitely not there at the moment. I think it's so difficult to say because we just don't know.
It's such, like you mentioned, it's such uncharted territory, and I think there's no known answer. We'll kind of figure out the answers as we go. One of the things that stood out is how people's lives have been disrupted. Things that are kind of normal for people they're not allowed to do those things anymore. So I've stalked you on Instagram, as I do on this platform, and I've just pulled up a picture here of you running with a couple of mates of yours. This was taken, I think, when you guys were doing Mad to Run, which was a project that you'll tell us a little bit about. But just in light of how life has had to change, and I think on a spectrum, for the richest of the rich, maybe it might be a few comforts that they've had to sacrifice. And for the poorest of the poor, there's been serious economic change in their life, negative change. But how has the adapting to a different life been for you? And then added to that, I want you to talk about particularly not being able to run and just some of the stuff you do outside of work.
So in terms of adapting, I think the social part of it was a fairly big thing for us. Having not been around too many people this year, I spent January down in the Western Cape studying for the DIPIC, and then came back and was kind of just doing my own thing a little bit, and then we locked down. I was a little bit into it from this year. And last year, social life wasn't huge. I was working out at Lerotong on the West Rand. It was an hour drive from home. So, you know, an hour out in the morning, long day, and an hour back in the afternoon. By the time I got back, I was shattered.
Nothing.
Being in Kalami and most things happen in Bryanston side. That 20 minutes was just another 20 minutes. I wasn't going to spend in a car, to be honest.
Yeah.
So didn't do too much. So I've been okay. And also then with the pregnancy, I haven't been really too phased about. It's not as if I'm going out drinking. So I think it's taken a little bit more of a toll on Andrew, my husband, because he was in the office every day with his friends, and you know, you'd go out for dinner after work, and I think that's got a little bit difficult for him. But I really haven't minded it too much. I think I got used to kind of doing without last year, so that's been fine. Sport-wise, yeah, definitely that I think was my biggest impact. My last few years have been super sporty, lots of running, lots of cycling, a bit of triathlons here and there. But somehow this year I actually didn't enter anything.
Really? I don't believe that. I honestly don't believe that.
And I was shocked.
2017, 2018, that's what I knew you for. You were, even like to the seniors, it was like Dr. Stace, the athlete who happens to work with us every now and then.
Yeah, no, the last 2 years have just been filled with like race after race, and it was initially the running, and then it was cycling and triathlons, and then mountain biking, and you know, and then it was stage races, then it was full weekends away. So a lot of fun. And I think this year, because I had the DIPIC on the cards, which was, we wrote the first part. So for those that don't know, it's a diploma in primary emergency care. And I did 6 months in the emergency unit in my ComServe, so I qualified to be able to write. I wrote the first part beginning of Feb, and then our practical was supposed to be at the end of March.
Okay.
Yeah. And then after that was meant to be a little bit of traveling. So I was like, you know what, I'm not making huge amounts of money this year because I'm just doing a bit of locum work. We're going to be traveling. I'm going to be studying, won't sign up for a lot of things. But like any other year, it would have been, you know, probably a half marathon in Feb, something else in March. We would have done Oxpecker, which is the 2-day trail race. Down the Berg now in May. Probably the half Ironman in June, a mountain bike race here and there.
Just casually.
So, and I just didn't enter anything, which I'm so glad about, because you basically don't get your money back for those things.
Wow.
So financially, it adds up.
Yeah.
And with the pregnancy now, I wouldn't have been able to anyway. So luckily, that worked out for me. And then when lockdown started, I wasn't really running. I struggled with my back this year. So it actually gave me a good time to rest. I think my body said it's been a hard 3 years and a break. It's actually been really good. But I've started running a little bit now, running with my mum, which is nice. And walking the dogs basically out, which has been really good. I think good for your mind and soul as well. Also just to dial back and listen to your body.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Not all
I'm glad you managed to slow down a little bit. People like you don't slow down, so maybe circumstance was the only thing that could actually just slow you down.
Exactly. Blessing in disguise.
Yeah, definitely. Lynn, just before we go, there's always a serious aspect to what we do, and I just want to sort of share a thought and pick your brain about something. It's topical, so I think we need to talk about it. So you're a female, and we're living in a time. It's not new what I'm going to talk about, but it's topical now. The issue of gender-based violence against women, a world that was created for the success and the comfort of a man that it seems like women have had to fit into, which hasn't been very friendly to them, and in many ways it's been violent. As a female in South Africa, living in this climate, but with also the history that we've had over a number of years, what are your feelings? What are your thoughts just about that? And if there's, you know, a wish that you have. I mean, I don't know if you do, I sprung this upon you, but if there's something that you wish you could see in our country over the next couple of years in that aspect, what would it be?
Yeah, so feeling wise, terrified. It's scary. It's hell of a scary being a woman. And especially in this country, you know, you've got to watch what you wear, because you can't wear what you want, because what if, you know, it's attractive to someone else in the wrong way. You need to watch your back when you're out running or walking. And constantly, if, you know, someone drives and wolf whistles at you when they drive past, you know, it must just be okay, which it's not. And men, it's a big problem. And not all men are like that, but I think we need to have more men that stand up for women. And it's so easy nowadays, you know, not boys, but men have these WhatsApp groups, and there'll be a porn video that goes around, or you know, pictures of women, and they're taking the mickey out of them, and it might not resonate within a certain gentleman, but how often do they step up and say, guys, not cool. Like, we don't need to be like that towards our women. I think it's so much easier for you to stand in the background and just, you know, laugh along, because then you're still part of the group. And I think you're always going to get terrible men out there. And I think, unfortunately, with the background history in our country, parenting is a big problem. And it comes from a long time ago, where parents aren't involved because they've got to go away and work, or they don't get to spend as much time with their children, or they have grown up without parents, and they don't know how to relay that to their own children. Or parents are growing up in an abusive relationship, so that's what their child sees, and that's what they think is normal. So I think it's so deeply ingrained, and it's going to be so difficult to get out of. But I think talking about it and getting our guy friends and our husbands and our boyfriends and our sons to grow up and understand that that's not okay. It's not a woman's fault that she's a woman. You know, if you want to be a feminist and say, you know, women are just as strong, you can, but men still need to protect our females out there, because we're always going to be a little bit weaker physically. So yeah, but growing up in this country, it's scary, and it's a big reason that we'll have a look to go overseas and raise our kids overseas, where they can be safe playing on the sidewalks, and walking to school if they could. Yeah, but it's a big problem, and it hurts my heart a lot, and especially because you'll also have seen it working in the emergency units, where you come in on a Saturday and they have been beaten senseless by their husbands, or nabbed over the smallest of things, or they went on a date and we had a patient like this that you know, wasn't dropped at home but was taken to a graveyard and nearly killed until a passerby stopped them. And that's just going on a date, but not putting out. And should you have to put it out in order to not get murdered?
Like, what kind of society is that, you know?
And the thing is, those stories don't even make the news anymore. It happens all the time.
That's the unfortunate thing. It's painful. I think it's, you know, I had a conversation with a mate yesterday, and I was like, personally, you know, there's the aspect to which I need to change and challenge things within my life, and I'm willing, and I like, that's a mantle I'm willing to carry. But I think I'm also burdened by the societal aspect. So like you mentioned now, you know, there's the extent to which we can engage and kind of challenge each other, and especially as guys. But societally, like at that mass level, I wonder what needs to change. I think there's aspects to it. It's multifaceted, and there's aspects you can speak to, decisions men are making, you know, behavioral aspects. but it just feels like there's something deep entrenched in our society that propagates. I don't know what it is, but yeah, it is a challenge. And I think also potentially raising a male child, which I'm expecting, it's a whole new ball game, because it's, there's the exciting part of being a father and teaching him how to be a man, but there's a big responsibility to that, right? And that modeling can kind of determine how we view women going forward.
Yeah.
So as you're talking now, I'm deeply challenged, just about, also about the future generation.
And I think we should be challenging all the men out there.
Mm, mm,
if everyone makes it their responsibility, we can make a difference.
yeah.
It's not gonna happen overnight, but if you can change the way you look at women and the way, and not necessarily in a sexual way, but just in general and as a whole, and if once you have figured out it within your own heart, to then help your friends and just to be that guy that says, not cool, guys, that's not how we should be acting. I think in the long run we can make a difference like that.
Sure. No, that's helpful. That's helpful.